with Felipe and Luis. I'm Alexandra Loya.
How's it going, everyone?
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Send in your comments, questions, because we're live.
It's good to be here with you all.
I know, I'm excited for this. This is our very first time doing this. So, of course, like you said, if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments.
Yep.
So first off, we're going to be talking about how Mexico did advance to the round of 16 despite their loss 3-0 to Sweden. So do you guys have any final shout-outs to South Korea? Any messages for them?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I tried to practice how to say that in Korean, but I don't want to do it.
What is
that
that?
way. I don't remember it anymore.
Yeah. No, honestly, like you are invited to every carne asada that I have over the summer. What you all did for us is incredible.
It's big time, and it
Yeah.
made me want to go eat some kimchi, and I will for sure.
Some Korean barbecue?
Oh,
Are we
yeah.
invited?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I actually know people that did go and eat like Korean
Awesome. I do too. So we're grateful people.
Yeah, very much so.
So, as we all know, Mexico has a reputation for playing up or down to their competition. Luis, how can El Tri ensure that they play up to Brazil's level?
That's a tall task. Just given the star power that's in that lineup for Brazil. But really, I think it kind of comes down to having the right mentality going into it. Just mostly it comes down to like effort, things like that.
I think what I'm most excited about, and I know I mentioned this in one of our first Talking El Tri, Mexico has a hard time against organized, compact teams, and that's what we saw against Sweden.
Exactly.
And I think what's exciting and an opportunity against Brazil is that Brazil plays fluid soccer. They also want to possess and attack. And if you go back and look at the highlights of the Mexico versus Sweden game, you can see that Mexico technically was better. We just could not figure out how to go through. And
No, you're right. I think
yeah.
Sweden did a really good job of limiting those spaces, the chances for attack, and it's not that Brazil can't defend as well as Sweden at times, but there's also times where there's lapses because they are more offensive focused than the Swedes.
There's going to be a lot more space for Chuquita to score one or two goals.
And we need to see some more brilliance out of Carlos Vela for sure.
Oh, Carlos Vela.
So, Pedro wants to know, do you think we can actually beat Brazil?
Oh, Pedro.
Korea beat Germany, so why can't Mexico beat Brazil?
Yeah.
But with that said, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
When I see Mexico win the round of 16, then I'll believe it. But
I think
until
the
then,
question really is, would you bet money?
How do we know I haven't yet?
Yeah.
No.
That's
Wait,
true.
Have you?
No, but let's just say I kind of happen to know that the odds are somewhere close to 7-1.
7-1.
So, if I want to times my money times 7, then maybe I might put a few bucks on Mexico. But I might also hold back just because.
What about you?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna be the optimist now and say that I think we can beat them. The last time we played them, I can't remember the last time we played them, but at the 2014 World Cup, Ochoa, we tied. Ochoa played so well,
And they were at home.
So
it wasn't necessarily just 11 against 11.
Yeah.
It was thousands against 11.
Yeah.
So can it be done? Yes. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Yeah.
But like I said, I'll believe it when I see it.
We're gonna beat Brazil. I'm
You
just gonna
got
say it. Yeah.
You're sure of it?
Yep, I'm sure of it. 100%.
I like
Hot take.
All right, so next, let's discuss possible lineup changes. Juan Carlos Osorio stuck with the same lineup the first 3 games. Will the loss to Sweden affect his starting 11 against Brazil? What do you think?
Well, technically it already has because one of those starters can't play. Hector Moreno picked up a yellow card on slide tackle that caused the ref to call penalty for Sweden's second goal. Me personally, I think the contact was more so initiated by the Swede.
I was gonna say it wasn't a penalty. Another case.
No,
of
no,
Penal number 2.
Number 2. He was starting to fall. Right?
Yeah. But as far as the lineup, like I said, I don't know. What do you think, Felipe?
I was surprised. There were hardly any changes to the lineup against Sweden.
It's the first time he's repeated a lineup.
Yeah.
So
I think he's going to go with the same lineup because I think it's going to play to Mexico's strengths in terms of playing against a Brazilian team that's going to be very offensive minded. But you're right, Hector Moreno. That is a
it's
big
huge
hole.
loss. Yeah. In a defense that already lacked depth.
Yeah.
So Hugo Ayala will probably have to step it up, and Edson Alvarez can't afford to have a repeat performance of what happened in Sweden. Not trying to put it all on the young guy, but mistakes happen.
How do you think he's doing mentally?
Man,
can you imagine?
So you could tell he was hurting after that game because he was in tears, and some of his teammates had to console him, and eventually it turned into like a big huddle. And I think that's maybe when they found out that they did in fact advance because of thanks to our Korean brothers.
Shout out to you all again.
But I have no idea where where he could be at mentally. He's the youngest player by far.
Yeah.
He's only like 20 years old. And I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't all that mentally mature when I was that young. So I don't know. I just hope they do have a sports psychologist on staff who, to me, is already kind of paid off some dividends, and we just got to see what kind of mental work they've been doing these last few days.
I would actually say if I was Osorio, I would put in Alvarez because it's it was a mistake, but hopefully he's going to learn from it. And if I was him and I had made that mistake, I would want to prove myself. In the next game, right? So he's gonna want to go out there and prove that he deserves. To be there.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Well, I agree
Ayala?
mostly because of the fact, not over Ayala, because I think Ayala will be a center back and they'll still use Alvarez on the right as a marking back. So it comes down to more so just by default, the lack of depth. They kind of have to use them. The last cuts that they made before the World Cup, they decided to keep a central midfielder who isn't going to see the field, unfortunately, this World Cup, instead of keeping another central defender like Osvaldo Alanis. And so it's kind of coming back to bite them. And, of course, the injuries before the World Cup, Diego Reyes and Nestor Araujo, they're all kind of coming back to hurt the depth of the squad where they have the least of it. So by default, I think Alvarez is going to start and Ayala is going to start.
What about
Felipe? We have a question from Felipe. He wants to know, do you put Edson Alvarez on the bench? He hasn't been 100% since South Korea.
First off, hola tocayo. I would say, and the question is if I would leave Edson Alvarez on the bench. Like I mentioned, I think I wouldn't. I think like Luis mentioned, we're short in depth when it comes to defense, and he'll want to prove himself. He'll want to prove why he deserves to be at the World Cup, especially after his mistake against Sweden.
Should we risk it?
That's a great question.
It's a great question, and I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. Profe Osorio has to.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll see what lineup comes out Monday.
Yeah, we almost won the group. We just shot ourselves.
Ya
in the foot.
meritos.
Ya meritos.
Yeah, I know.
Like always.
Yeah.
We have another question. So, what is going to be the tactic for guarding Neymar for this game?
As many green jerseys around him as possible. Just contain him and be careful about how aggressive you are because he has been known to dive.
He's a flopper.
He's a flopper. Yeah. And VAR caught him one time already, and they pulled one of Brazil's originally called penalties away from him.
Yeah.
So it's not rocket science in that they definitely need to defend as a unit. And that applies to several Brazilian players, though, because, I mean, name after name after name, they could throw at you that could beat you off the dribble. I don't know what you think, Freddie.
I think you're right. Neymar is I saw recently that Andres Guardado was saying, saying that Neymar goes to the ground way too easily, which is very true. And he did it in a way to caution the referees to keep an eye out for that.
That's it.
And so I think if I was Osorio, I would kind of play into that and kind of try to see if you can have the referees book him.
Yep.
Give him a yellow card.
A little gamesmanship before the match.
Oh,
Getting already into the ref's head. I'm 100% on board with that idea for sure.
Who do you think is the bigger threat, though? Neymar or Coutinho?
I actually would say Coutinho.
Really?
Yeah. Neymar is definitely the star on the team. But I think Coutinho has really come into his own with this Brazilian team. He's dictates the tempo of the play. He's really been instrumental, in the last 3 games. What are your thoughts, Luis?
Well, I'm not going to go as far as to say Coutinho's the straw that stirs the glass, because really as a unit they've been... they've had lapses.
Yeah.
So they've had good and bad. Because really, against Costa Rica, they needed 6 minutes of added time to win that game. Up through the 90 minutes, it was 0-0. And Costa Rica was holding strong and even had their own chances. So, I don't know. It depends which Brazil shows up. I would say Coutinho, Neymar, Willian. I don't know. If Firmino gets to play, they can all.
Firmino.
Yeah, they can all have flashes. It just, I don't know. It depends which Brazil shows up. And even if they do show up, I still have confidence that, like we were saying earlier, El Tri, they play up for those big games. They get up for them, and I know that it's not going to be an easy win for Brazil by any means.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous for this game, but I mean, we do have this curse that we do have to talk about. So we made it to the round of 16. Yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it either, but so the last 7 World Cups has failed to advance to the quarterfinals. So let's go over some of the previous round 16 games and some memories. So again, in 1994, PKs against Bulgaria.
As
anything of that?
Yeah, no, as the older by possibly days. No, I'm joking, but I do remember the 94 World Cup slightly. I remember how sad I was that the Bulgarians managed to beat Mexico in PKs in Giant Stadium. Hristo Stoichkov, I liked him up until that point. So it was, it's a sad way to go out, and that was a really talented team. And, a lot of that kind of repeated itself the following years. I don't know. What kind of memories do you have, Felipe?
I've already mentioned the Maxi Rodriguez goal in 2006. That was a golazo, and it broke my heart. But I think the other one before that comes to mind is the 2002 World Cup, the 2-0, where the U.S. That's where they coined 2-0, where the United States beat Mexico and by a two-goal margin. It was disappointing to lose to our biggest rival, to our neighbors up north.
Yeah, Mexico won their group. Everybody thought they were gonna roll, and they saw that they drew the U.S. in the round of 16 game. Definitely just overlooked them. It was like, it's in the bag, but some kind of things came out of left field early in that game. I remember. And they couldn't. Javier Aguirre, the coach back then, couldn't counter it, and props to the U.S. tacticians.
Yeah,
that game.
I would say the other game or memory of the curse was in 2010. It was somewhat of a similar collapse against Argentina, where we lost 3-1. And it started off with an offside goal from Carlos Tevez.
Way offside.
VAR
would have caught that. VAR would have changed, that whole history.
Oh, yeah. He did. I mean, I will say Carlos Tevez did score an amazing goal in that game later in the game, but it was disappointing to see, and that was that was the fact that it was the fourth game against Argentina again, and they knocked us out in 2006, and to have that again happen.
Yeah, no, it's tough. And then the most recent heartbreak was the No Era Penal of 2014. Mexico played a brilliant first, 80-something minutes.
Yeah.
Giovanni got a really nice goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
kind of the
still
same
see
thing.
tweets about it.
Kind of the same thing. Hey, people have like
Day
a running,
whatever.
people have a running, day counter. They're like, day number
No era penal.
1,000.
I know, yeah.
I love that became a trend.
Memes on memes.
Yeah, for sure. What about from Sunday's game? Was that part 2?
No, well,
The No Era
see.
Penal?
Yeah, well, there was a No Era Penal kind of feel to it.
Do you agree to it? Because, you're kind of iffy on it.
I am iffy because, I think it was kind of a preempted slide tackle. I think he might have been able to stand him up because the Swedish forward wasn't quite going towards the goal, but at the same time, I think he didn't want to risk it or something, but the Swede was smart enough to, embellish the contact a little more, and I mean it was kind of hard to argue at the same time too. There's arguments for both ways.
Yeah.
We have a few questions coming in from the audience. See if you guys agree with Roland Garcia. He says Miguel Layun needs to be on the bench if Mexico has any chance against Brazil.
Not a great game against the Swedes for Miguel Layun, and didn't show a lot against the Koreans. I thought he played brilliant against Germany. So I keep him out on the field. Mostly because I also kind of see him as part of the core of that team. But there's a lot of arguments for him to probably be benched.
Yeah, I would agree with you too. I think Miguel Layun brings a lot to the team, and you're right. He had not the greatest game against Sweden, but I think the team needs his influence. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, I agree.
Vincent says, in my opinion, Mexico's best formation at this point with the players missing out due to yellow card is 5 in the back. Would you guys agree?
Oh. Who else are you going to put back? You can put Marquez in there? Like I said, the issue is depth. Or Layun could drop back. So yes and no. The problem is, I think this Mexico midfield, Guardado Herrera especially, can definitely give Brazil a good run, and so I think 5 would kind of imply dropping back more, giving up possession, which I think Brazil probably will outpossess Mexico slightly, but we want to give ourselves the best possibility, and for that I think we need somebody, maybe a defensive midfielder, to support Guardado and Herrera.
Saul wants to know, what about Raúl Jiménez for Chicharito?
I would say I think Chicharito deserves his opportunity to start. He
has so much passion for the game.
Yeah.
I agree.
He's almost all-time scorer for Mexico at the World Cup, and I'm not saying that as a reason to play him. I'm saying that because he is such a central part to Mexico, and he's had a pretty decent World Cup so far.
Yeah, the amount of work that Chicharito actually does off the ball is outstanding. You don't see it on camera because they're not going to show him just making runs or trying to pull a defender somewhere else, and that can't go unnoticed. Not saying Raúl Jiménez can't do that, because I think he can. But Raúl Jiménez, he would have probably been a good option for Sweden, just because maybe there have been more attempts to cross the ball into the box, even though Sweden has a bunch of giant Vikings back there. But props to them. If anybody has kind of an argument to get to start against Brazil, it's Oribe El Cepillo de Oro Peralta, because he has already been known to have a good performance against Brazil in the 2012 Olympics.
That's
He
right.
opened up the score with I think it was like first minute or something. And that definitely threw Brazil off. So that is an ideal situation. Put Brazil in up against it early on.
And Neymar was part of that team too.
Neymar was on that team. Some of their squad is what Mexico's facing Monday, so they haven't forgotten. They know what they're going up against.
Yeah. What did Chicharito say? I don't know if you saw that interview, but it's been a hashtag recently. It's
Imanos cosas what?
Cosas chingonas.
I don't know if you
And
say
so,
that.
I think he's also inspiring for the team.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gone viral, and it was really big before the Sweden game, and then it kind of lost some of its luster. But that doesn't mean to stop imagining, these
great
badass things, these great things,
Because I feel like nobody believed in Mexico, and I mean, it's kind of like a history that we have, but still, like, we still need to keep going and just keep fighting.
That's it.
That's it.
Alfonso wants to know if you guys think Mexico should start Gio against Brazil.
I don't, because his natural position is where Carlos Vela's playing right now. And I think Carlos Vela's actually playing pretty good. Maybe, just like the whole team didn't look that great against Sweden. Most of that, I think, is credit to Sweden and their compactness and their discipline. But at one point early in the match, Chicharito stole a ball that 2 passes later, Carlos Vela ended up on his favored left foot with a chance, and it went just wide. And if that one had gone in, it could have been a totally different story with Sweden chasing, a Mexican lead as opposed to what ended up happening.
Yeah, I would say
start Gio.
I wouldn't start Gio. I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. I would, Osorio's gonna have to be. He should play. I think he should play. Osorio just needs to be strategic about when and when is the best moment to throw Gio in there.
So yeah, like maybe if they're looking for a spark later in the game, play him. But I don't see him starting.
Yeah.
Kentish wants to know, how does Mexico get over a 3-0 loss and run into Brazil, an improving team?
How to get over a 3-0 loss?
Yeah.
And I think it's I think it's important for them to know that they've had a decent campaign so far. They beat Germany, they beat South Korea. They've worked hard. They deserve a place in the next round. They just need to remind themselves that they made it and that they're able to get results. And I'm glad they have. You mentioned a mental coach on staff, and so I think it really comes down to them being mentally prepared for Brazil, and also not get too lost in their lost in their heads in terms of how Brazil is one of the favorites to win the World Cup.
I actually, and this is just me thinking optimistically, I think the way you get over a 3-0 loss is not thinking about it, because moving on to the knockout stage, it's already a clean slate. You're starting over. Brazil doesn't get some kind of lead, like I don't know, any kind of advantage based off of the result from the last game. It is a clean slate. You're on to the next, and hopefully that's the way they're approaching it. That's how I would.
Last question from the audience. Justin wants to know, moving on from the Mexico-Brazil match, who do you guys see winning it all?
I mean, The Simpsons.
The Simpsons predicted
I don't want to
Portugal,
say
Mexico.
nothing. Yeah. But when have they been wrong?
Yeah, it's hard to go against that. I had, despite their really boring game against Denmark, I've kind of been picking France from the beginning. That team is pretty stacked, and not just that, but guys in their prime. And it's hard to say how good Belgium is, just because the game against England was kind of, it wasn't that great, in my opinion. So my pick is France.
France. I would say Mexico is going to win it all. And if I had to choose a second team to take it,
Plan B.
a plan B, it would have to be, I don't know, Colombia looked pretty good recently in their last 2 games. They've been looking a lot better. I would love to see a South American team win, a Latin American team win. It's unfortunate that there aren't any more African teams.
Yeah,
I'm just
Senegal was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would say just a team that's not European.
Well, a non-European team has never won the World Cup on European soil, so that would be big. But before Brazil 2014, a European team had never won in South America. So
yeah,
history could be made in this World Cup too.
I do hope Argentina gets knocked out by France. They're
gonna come after Messi so hard. But this isn't the Argentina show. This is talking.
That's right.
What has been your favorite moment in the World Cup? It doesn't even have to be a Mexico game, but just your favorite moment.
My favorite moment, I mean, it was surreal to see Mexico beat Germany. I know that has to be my favorite moment. Being, I was at the British Bulldog watching it, and just the energy and the buzz and the amount of people there, and how jazzed up people were. Watching the game wind down, the suspense. It was just, I would say that was my favorite experience.
Yeah, my favorite moment was celebrating the Chucky Lozano goal against Germany. I definitely have never celebrated or yelled a goal like that and hugged so many strangers as I had in that moment. So it was pretty cool. But hopefully there's more good moments to come.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully it's not the end. But this is the end of this video. I think that covers everything. So until next Monday's match, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Luis.
Thanks, Alex.
And we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Si se puede.
Si se puede.